Robert Mueller is investigating Russia's attack on the American election. But now he is under attack. And this new assault is not coming from Moscow. It's coming from Fox News headquarters right here in New York.
Hold it now.
This is CNN, home of fake news.
It's an anti-Mueller, anti-FBI feedback loop, claiming that Mueller's probe is hopelessly biased and downright corrupt.
So let's be really clear why we have special counsel. There was either a real or perceived conflict of interest that we were fearful would either impact the result or people's confidence in the process. That's why we have something called special counsel, and that's why we have special counsel in this fact pattern. And then lo and behold, those who are supposed to make sure there are no conflicts of interest seem to have a few of their own.
This is the feedback loop in action. I want you to see it over and over again. Fox, Trump, his aides, GOP lawmakers, all of them, they're taking a legitimate issue, which is the discovery of a Mueller team member who expressed his hatred of Trump in text messages, and then they're blowing it up, trying to discredit the entire probe. Now remember, that team member was removed from the probe when the text messages were found. But every day it's something new, some new reason to claim the special counsel is illegitimate.
Did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, and was the dossier the basis for securing warrants at the FISA court to spy on Americans associated with the Trump campaign? Really, when you sum it all up, it boils down to those fundamental questions. Did you pay the guy who wrote it? And did you use what he wrote, disproven, discredited dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign? Did you use it to go get warrants to spy on Americans? That's what it comes down to. And you're the guy who can answer those questions. And yesterday I was convinced that the answer to those questions was probably yes, but today I'm even more convinced the answer is yes, based on the text messages we got to read early this morning.
So partisanship is certainly at play in that hearing. It was clear that the Republicans are trying to make the case against Mueller and his investigation. But that man, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, appointed by the President of the United States, named Trump, did not share their concerns about Mueller or the integrity of the Russia investigation. And again, this comes amid these growing calls, almost exclusively from Republican lawmakers who say that this probe is biased and that he should be fired.
And then we have prosecutors assigned to conduct this investigation who donated almost exclusively to one candidate over another. And then we have a prosecutor assigned to this conflict of interest-free team that attended what was supposed to be, what he'd hoped to be, a victory party for Secretary Clinton. And we have a senior DOJ official, Mr. Deputy Attorney General, with an office that used to be 2 doors down from yours, meeting with Fusion GPS. And Fusion GPS, of course, was paying for Russian dirt on the very person that they're supposed to be objectively investigating. And then that same senior DOJ official's wife, the one that met with Fusion GPS, his wife was on the payroll of Fusion GPS. And then we have a senior agent assigned to investigate Secretary Clinton's email, help draft the exoneration letter where we changed the language from grossly negligent to extremely careless, interviewed Secretary Clinton in an interview I've never seen, and I doubt you have either in your career as a prosecutor, interviewed Michael Flynn, was actively involved in the investigation into the Trump campaign before the Inspector General found his text. So this agent, in the middle of almost everything related to Secretary Clinton and President Trump, sent pro-Clinton texts, anti-Trump texts to his paramour in response to being told maybe he is where he is to protect the country from that menace, Donald Trump. He said, I can protect our country at many levels. And then he said Hillary Clinton should win 100 million to nothing. Now think about that, Mr. Deputy Attorney General. That's a pretty overwhelming victory.
Not just Republicans making these calls. Harvard University just released a poll where more than half of the American people believe that there's conflict of interest that has infected the Mueller investigation. And we just need the Justice Department to step up and seize control. I don't know where the Attorney General and Rod Rosenstein are in this, but I think they need to fire Mueller and cure us of these conflicts.
All right, first, all polls are not equal. I did say not exclusively a Republican, but it is.
It's Harvard, Chris.
It is primarily.
It's Harvard University.
I get it. I know the school. It's the second best in the country. Yale being the first.
So what was the role of Bruce Orr?
Bruce,
he met with Christopher Steele before the election. Was that an authorized meeting?
Congressman, I do not know all the details. This information is still developing, so I don't know the full story, but we've agreed to make Mr. Orr available for congressional interviews, and they'll be free to ask him those questions.
You need to pursue it. It's your department. You demoted him. He's working with Christopher Steele. You have an anti-Trump dossier funded by the Democratic Party. His wife works for Fusion GPS. This doesn't look good, so we need answers to those questions.
I'm not suggesting that I'm disinterested, Congressman, just that we've done everything
I get it.
to allow you to get those answers.
Let me ask you this. The role of Mr. Strzok. How much of this Russia investigation was due to him? Because, yes, Mueller saw the text. Obviously, I think there was nothing he could do. You get rid of him. But how much of this whole investigation has been infected with his bias? Have you made a determination on that?
I have not, but I do want you to know, and again, without talking specifically about this investigation, that the FBI does have procedures for all investigations to ensure that they're appropriately vetted, so there's any one individual would be able to make decisions on that.
I hope that, but if you look at that damning text on 15 August 2016, this is bad. He says, I want to believe the path you threw out for consideration in Andy's office. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's Andrew McCabe's office. That there's no way he, meaning Donald Trump, gets elected. But I'm afraid we can't take that risk. We in the FBI can't take that risk. It's like an insurance policy in the unlikely event you die before you're 40.
Well, Chris, all the American people can see the text messages that were forced to be released because Devin Nunes was about to subpoena them. But time and again, you don't only see the reflection of people's political beliefs, you see Peter Strzok, an essential FBI agent that worked not only on the Hillary Clinton email scandal, but also was drafted onto the Mueller probe, saying that he thinks that Hillary Clinton should have won the election 100 million to 0. He didn't think there was a single person that could reasonably vote for Donald Trump. And then you see that he calls himself the insurance policy for the country, that he has multiple ways he can save the American people. He praises his girlfriend's role in laying out a plan to disrupt the president's election back in August. And so these aren't just the expression of beliefs. This is an action plan to disrupt the presidency of Donald Trump, and it's reflective of a conflict.
That's your interpretation.
The Russia investigation, who started it? Who was the agent? Was it Strzok who started it? Who opened it, the case?
Congressman, that matter is under review by the Intelligence Committee, and there's nothing that I can talk about publicly regarding the initiation of the investigation, but I can assure you we're going to provide appropriate access to the Intelligence Committee to what they need to answer.
Did the FBI pay for the dossier?
I'm not in position to answer that question, Congressman. But
you know the answer to the question?
That is, I believe I know the answer, but the Intelligence Committee is the appropriate committee to make that.
That is not true. We have oversight over your department and the FBI, and whether public funds were spent on a dossier, that is not something that's classified. We have every right to that information. You should provide it. If you're not, then there will probably be things.
And the fact that Mueller, after getting rejected for getting his own job back, goes and picks Andrew Weissman to be his number 2. A guy, look, you're telling me Bob Mueller couldn't pick somebody to be his number 2 that didn't attend the Hillary Clinton election night party? The same Andrew Weissman who wrote Sally Yates an email praising her for directly defying an order from the President of the United States.
You will find
political
opinions in everybody in government.
This is an opinion. It's action, Chris. You've got Weissman sending an email on his DOJ account praising someone for defying the president. That's not an opinion. That is an action on government time, on government email. When Strzok says, I'm going to be the insurance policy, when he talks about his girlfriend, Lisa Page, throwing out a plan in Andy McCabe's office to undermine Donald Trump, these are actions that people are taking to undermine the duly elected president and to undermine the democracy in our country.
I got really just a couple basic questions. Because it seems to me if the answer to any of those two questions, if the answer is yes, if you guys paid Christopher Steele at the same time the Democrats in the Clinton campaign were paying, or if you took the dossier, dressed it all up, took it to the FISA court, and used that as the basis to get warrants, and now we have intent in this text message saying, there's another text message, my colleague referenced it earlier, where Mr. Strzok says, I can protect our country at many levels. Says it with all the humility he could muster. I can protect our country at many levels. This guy thought he was Super Agent James Bond at the FBI. This is obvious. I'm afraid we can't take that risk. There's no way we can let the American people make Donald Trump the next president.